Okay, Warren Macdonald coming back at you again with the solution revolution this week. I'm super psyched because I got Kyle Maynard with us, and I got to admit I've been trying to get Kyle to do this for a while now. He's a hard man to track down, but he's got a good excuse, albeit. I thought I'd throw that in there with the no excuses thing, but I thought you got a great excuse to kind of be busy. So yeah, welcome, Kyle.
Thanks, Warren. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
No worries, and thanks for taking the time out because I know it's kind of getting late at night where you are, and I know you've just flown in from Thailand. But why don't we start out? I wanted to give people a sense of who you are, and like who is Kyle Maynard. What's kind of your story, if you like, if you want to give us a bit of a snapshot there, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. I think that for me, if I describe myself, I just love, kind of adventuring and trying new things and just finding, growth and life and love and passion and all those things that make it, worth living. And it's I was born with a condition called congenital amputation, which is basically just arms that end at my elbows and legs that end at my knees. And so growing up, my parents, they didn't treat me any different and just, treated me as a normal kid, played sports. And, I have 3 younger sisters that were born totally, able-bodied. And, I think that I attribute just a ton of kind of who I am now is just my family and closest friends.
Because your family just basically said, here's the deal, here he is, and that was it. Just basically treated you as a regular guy.
Yeah, it's something I'm sure that you can relate to this too. Any time that you have any type of physical disability, then there's that natural instinct for the people around us to want to coddle, want to try to like help with everything. And then, my parents, in particular, my dad, really early on realized that the world wasn't going to be set up for me. That I was going to have to kind of find a way to operate without them there helping me through everything. And it was a really amazing thing, growing up. My mom and dad and grandparents would just, kind of let me work through situations where I would just try to problem solve and not get too discouraged.
Right. Yeah, I saw that on the. I was checking out some of the videos online, and I saw that comment by your dad here. I thought the comment that came after that was cool too. That I don't know who it was, but the guy makes some comment about how, hey dude, it's like it's obvious if you started turning away from obstacles, you're going to be turning away from a lot of obstacles. And
yeah, that's the truth. It's and that's kind of that path. We kind of end up, if we get stuck in a rut sometimes, and kind of keep going down that path over and over and over again, and recreating that. And it's I'm thankful that my family, they just never really, there's bad days like anybody else, absolutely, but they just wouldn't let me stay there growing up, and I think that's helped a lot kind of now with my perspective as an adult.
Yeah. And that was something else I picked up on that I can totally relate to, because I use that in sharing my story, is this idea that we can have bad days, but they've rarely got anything to do with having no legs or no arms and or legs. It's like they're just the usual stuff. It's like, how do you...
Right.
It's just, how do I keep the tax man off my back?
You gotta pay taxes. You gotta, gotta make sure all the other bills are on time. You gotta like handle other life situations. And you're like, all the, it's really cool to hear you say that. It has nothing to do with not having legs or arms or whatever. It's like,
exactly. I got enough going on that I don't even get time to think about it.
That's right.
Usually, while everybody else is freaking out, why? How's this dude going to do that? How's he going to do that? It's like, dude, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, it's the last thing on your mind, and let's just, I feel the same way. It's something that, if I'm not standing in front of a group and speaking, or, if I'm just at home, working or whatever, then it's, not even really something I think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really, because that ties right in with this idea of being solution focused. What I find, and I definitely, I've fallen into this pattern myself. Luckily I recognize it and I can kind of slap myself around and get out of it. But it's when you start letting yourself getting overwhelmed by obstacles. And I think one of the things that I've tried to bring up with people will they'll get swamped and overwhelmed. But I think part of the issue is they haven't developed that mindset of dealing with the little obstacles that come along, and that's why I really like that comment that guy made, that if you started turning away from even the first obstacles, you're going to be surrounded by them, you're going to be overrun by them. And that's kind of one of the things I like to get across to people is, if you do something hard, do something that challenges you, because you can't expect to handle big challenges if you can't handle all the little things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot in that little stuff, because there really isn't anything that's not a little thing in terms of how it's going to go and affect your life. If little stuff, if it's getting stuck in traffic, or if it's being 5 minutes late to something, or if it's an argument that you got in with a friend or a spouse, and if you let those things go and affect your entire life and your day and everything else, then you're absolutely right that when you do encounter something that is true adversity, it's going to make it that much harder. And it's really something where kind of got to go and sit back and go and take a look around. It's this really is kind of an amazing gift that we have in life, just to be able to encounter these challenges. And it's in these things that, if we really look at it, then and start to learn from it, then we can really find a lot of growth in our life from those things.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's to me, that's what it's all about, is about growth. And it's interesting because we come from two different places in a lot of ways, in that I went through 32 years of cruising around in two legs, kind of just being normal, quote unquote. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't go back. There's absolutely no way I'd go back now, because of just how much I've learned since then. And so, yeah, you've kind of had that from the outset, which is a completely different perspective.
Yeah, and I think that it's hard to say, but I would imagine that I've gotten to work a lot with veterans that have come back that are amputees, and I've seen that anytime that you have to go through something and you lose the ability to use something, whether it's your legs, your arms, whatever, if it's a spinal cord injury, anytime that you go and lose something, it is really tough. It's a lot harder. I've never known any different. So for me, when I was growing around as a baby, crawling around, it was just normal. I had no idea. For you, you've had to learn a whole new way to go and do things, and that there is a massive shift there. But,
there's a big acceptance piece in it, and a lot of people I see struggle with that. For some reason, I managed to blow through that fairly quickly, but it's a big one. I talk a lot about that these days. That it's kind of the first step. If you can't accept something, you really can't move on to the steps that follow.
Honestly, it's the first step, and when you realize that how critical it is, it's the only step.
Yeah.
It's
So you would experience it in a couple of different ways, because what I want to do is we'll get a website up on the bottom of the screen here in various places, and people can go and kind of check out what you've been up to online. But for me, one of the amazing things when I first heard about your story is how is it? What possesses a guy with no arms and legs to want to go out and wrestle and then get into mixed martial arts? And I think I know the answer to that, but I think I want to get your take on that.
Psychosis, man. I don't know. It's something that to me, it's I find that, I don't know, I'm most connected to just myself and kind of understanding, learning about myself when I'm in situations that have kind of tested me physically. And not that physical tests are the only way to go and do that. I try to apply the same thing to my career or to, relationships or whatever it is in my life that I'm trying to seek to improve, than to go and say, how can I go and make this a little bit better, live a little bit deeper, a little bit fuller, a little bit richer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, getting punched in the face or choked out by guys, then it's like it's kind of like a very spiritual experience, I guess you could say.
Spiritual experience, I like it. So, because to me, it's like it looks like that you're constantly looking for that edge, and that's really what growth's about. It's like it's that pushing, finding out where the edge is, and it's funny because I've always explained it when I lead into talking about climbing Kili on stage when I'm telling my story. I kind of lead in there with, if you're cursed like I am in feeling the need to just keep going higher and higher, then eventually you're going to end up on a big mountain, and that's kind of me finding that edge. So it's interesting, yeah. You've been looking for it in the ring, and now you're about to go looking for it on a big mountain as well.
You're right. Yeah, your curse is actually, that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's have you ever had people accuse you of saying, like, you're doing this to try to prove something? I'd be interested to hear your perspective on that, because it's something to me, it's like, I don't know, it's just, just what I'm programmed to do, and I do it regardless of a disability, just to go and test kind of the limits and the bounds. But I'm curious, like, have people thought that about you, that you're out there to try to prove something to other people, or?
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I was really only trying to prove something to myself. That's really what it was all about. I mean, I spent most of my life in the outdoors, and so when this thing happened to me, it was like, hey, is there any way I can get part of that particular part of my life back? And I just had to go and find out. But yeah, I had people. I had one guy in particular telling me that I had no idea what I was in for when I did one particular climb before Kili. And he had been up this mountain a dozen times, and so he was in a position to know, but I basically had to go with a gut instinct that said, you know what, by the time I get to that particular place on the mountain, I'm going to have been on this mountain for 2 weeks at least. And by that point, I'm going to have figured out some stuff that I don't know sitting here as I had that conversation with John in the gym that day. So, and I'm a huge believer in that. It's that whole thing of, we start out on a journey, we can't see the whole journey while we're in the starting block, so to speak. You got to get moving to be able to see it, and that's exactly how it panned out on that trip. So I'd say I could see people throwing that at you for sure, and I got a sense that you're in a similar position. You won't really know, right? You get things dialed in, but there's things that you don't know. Like I didn't know really how I would go at that kind of altitude, and the only way you can know is to find out, is to do it. Find out is to go.
Yeah, that's the truth. It's I think that hesitation, and something I've been guilty of in the past too, is just that, kind of getting that mindset of like, okay, I'm waiting for everything to be perfect in the starting blocks before I go, and it's never going to be perfect. I think it was maybe Zig Ziglar or some motivational speaker that I saw one time that said, like, if you wait for all the lights to turn green before you drive into the city, then you'll be sitting in your driveway for the rest of your life.
Right.
And it's something that I think is it's really similar experience to what I've had with this, where it's like, especially starting out several years ago, the first time I climbed anything, I did it in some bath towels that I took from a hotel room.
Wow.
And cut a rope off the back of my wheelchair, and put an extra pair of socks on, and went and free climbed up to about 1,500 feet out up in Palm Springs. And it wasn't a huge peak, but it was like standing on top of that mountain. I've got the video on my Facebook page, or the picture on my Facebook page of like sitting on top of this peak and like looking down at the city. Yeah. And I'll never forget, there was a Cessna plane, little single prop plane, that came and flew around the base of this peak that we were sitting in, but it was below us, and I could go and see the top of that.
Yeah.
And it was that first sense of summit fever that I got. And,
Yeah.
Now it's the process has been, it's taken, it's been a long time. Went from using towels and the rope to towels and packing tape, then to oven mitts and back to towels, and then to towels and oven mitts together, and then to bike tires and foam, and finally got something that's actually working. So it's now a little bit more space age, but it didn't start there, I guess, is what I'd say.
No, exactly. And I dare say that if you had waited and said, well, towels, I'm kind of not a towels kind of guy, I need carbon fiber and stuff, then you'd still be waiting.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, it's you have to get out there and you have to go and experience it. And like if you sit and listen to someone that's going to go and have doubts, and really all it is, what I talk about doubts when I speak is really any type of projection. If you think about this, when we think about anyone, whether it's your capabilities, if I go and tell myself, Warren can't do this or that, right? Then all I'm taking is I'm saying that if I were in your shoes, if I were in your place, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with you or your capabilities.
No, exactly. You're right. It's a full-on projection.
Yeah.
Interesting, and it all comes down to perception, which is a kind of big subject of mine. It's how we see things in the first place, whether for other people and for ourselves. And obviously, you saw yourself as a Kilimanjaro climbing kind of guy, and here we go. You're ready to launch out. I can't wait to kind of track the progress, and it's awesome. I think you're gonna love it. I dare say you probably won't love every minute of it, but that's that's part of the experience.
Yeah, I hope I don't love every minute of it. I'll say that because
then you'd have to go and do something bigger afterwards.
That's right. Yeah, right. Just continue to go and push it. But probably happen anyway. But I think anything that you have in life that you really work for, you really strive for, those are the things that you value. It's not the stuff that comes immediately. Yeah. The instant gratification society that we kind of live in now is really, I think, kind of corrosive. Yeah. It's something that, if you think about the best things that have ever happened in your life, or anyone's life that's watching this, it's like they are just the hardest things sometimes to overcome. Yeah. Really the truly the most grueling things. And a lot of times it doesn't have anything to do with the physical. It's internal. Yeah. It's what we go through on our own experience.
Yeah, it's true. I've often said to people, and this goes down really well at at something like a financial planning conference, that some of the best times I've had were when I had virtually no money.
Right.
But just as far as a lifestyle, because it's like they say, there's two ends of the leisure class. There's the upper end and the lower end, and they love hearing that. I explained that to a guy at one conference, and he said, "So I think what you're telling me is that you used to be a bum before this happened to you."
Was that one of those days that you weren't shaving, like we were talking about?
Yeah. There's a lot of those days.
It's something that, I think that when you have the choice where you can go and say, that I can have wealth or I can not have wealth and I can still be happy.
Yeah.
That wealth is something that's entirely independent. It's a tool that, shows that you can use for the value and the purpose that you have in your life. That's when it can become an amazing gift. If it's something that, just that your whole life purpose is to obtain wealth, then I don't know. To me, to some people that might be fulfilling, and I can't say that that's wrong. But to me, it's something that, if that happens as a consequence of living just the dreams that I want to go and create in my life, then that's a good thing. But I don't think I would be held to that by any means.
No, the way I've kind of come to view that relationship with money is that it's a form of energy, and the beauty is that if you're in a position where you actually can have a lot of it, then it's just you can have more of an effect.
Right.
You can do
Yeah.
you can do more good, and you kind of it's just a form of energy. It took me quite a few years to figure that one out, but
A
yeah.
lot of people too, and I've been in this boat. I started speaking when I was, to Fortune 500 companies when I was, 18, 19 years old. And speaking to companies, like you said, financial planners and, mortgage bankers and stuff. I didn't even know what a mortgage was at 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And it's, I had a hard time, like when I started speaking, like really receiving, even, payment for my services, and the speech, sometimes too, like,
you couldn't, because maybe you couldn't view the value of it, or didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, and I guess that was something that I had to kind of go and work out myself, to go and say that, like, if there is an organization or a school, that's bringing me in to go and to present, then there is, a tremendous value I can go and present to their people. And that by focusing on that value, I'm going to only continue to live beyond that, as opposed to just having it stuck in my head that, I'm not worth whatever fee that I asked for the event. And so it's something that, when you get over that and we kind of realize, like, man, there is tremendous potential. It doesn't have to be just someone with a physical disability. Like, anyone that has passion and drive and a message to go and give can go and share this. Then it's it can be a powerful thing.
Yeah, it can, and it's an interesting one, because we all bring something to the table, and a lot of times, I know for me, it took a long time for me to realize that that there was value in sharing my story, because I just thought, well, that's what anybody would do. If this happened, of course you're going to get back on the horse and you're going to go and do it. And then, and kind of over time you figure, well, not everybody's, people are wired in different ways. Some people are going to have a harder time with it. Some people are not going to want to do that. So it's but it took a long time to kind of wrap my head around that concept of bringing value to the table. Hey, something I wanted to ask you about as well. There's kind of the climbing Kili thing, but the CrossFit thing, it kind of blows me away. That because I've done a handful of CrossFit sessions, and they always leave me just brutalized. And so how did that come about? I'm imagining that you discovered CrossFit and figured, well, hey, I've just discovered I need to open a CrossFit gym. Is that kind of what happened, or am I missing a couple of steps there?
No, you're kind of you hit the nail on the head. You can tell there's like not a huge delay between whatever happens here and whatever I decide to go and do, which sometimes can get me into trouble. But it's it kind of happened. It was in 2000, probably into 2007. Early 2008, I saw two videos, two different workouts. The most relevant one was three smoking hot, gorgeous ladies that were doing a workout called the Nasty Girls.
Yeah.
And they are legends in the CrossFit communities, and now all good friends of mine. So I saw this video, and they were doing like power cleans and these air squats and medicine balls and muscle ups on gymnastics rings, and I was like, just blown away. One of the workout lasted like 12 minutes, and like one of the girls was like crying afterwards, and I was like, I got to try this.
Wow.
And similar experience. I went and got certified and just like fell in love with it. The first workout I ever did was like real timed with people CrossFit workout was only lasted 3 minutes and 36 seconds, and it is to this day the toughest workout I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
It was wrecked for a week.
Yeah.
It was so you don't need the hours and hours upon hours in the gym. It's something that you can kind of just get your work in hard and quick.
Yeah. No, totally. I had a friend of mine just destroy me in her garage with a workout that consisted of nothing more than push-ups and pull-ups.
Yeah.
And the push-ups, I'll tell you, the funny part was the push-ups. She said, now how do you go about doing push-ups? I said, well, I'll show you how I do push-ups. And I did I can do them like a plank, right? No feet, right. I haven't got any feet. But just I can be off the ground and do my push-ups. And she takes a look and she says, Yeah, don't worry about that. Let's just put your stumps down on the ground and just do push-ups that way. And I'm thinking, well, that's just kind of lame.
Right,
Well, I tell you what, it was nowhere near lame by the time we finished that workout. The next day, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go for a swim to loosen up.
Yeah, I believe it. By the eighth or ninth round, and you're only 3 minutes in, then you're thinking, okay, what did I get myself into? It's the kind of thought I have almost every single time I do the training.
So now you said something interesting before, though, is that you saw this video that made one of the girls cry, and then your first reaction was, I got to go and do that. And I got to see, that's one of those things I got to point out, that that's not everybody's going to do that. That's I think that's something that I'm trying to get across with this series, is that we're not all going to be wired to do that. But if you see people that are really growing and
Right.
and kind of living large, if you like, and getting out and doing some the stuff that they really want to do, that's kind of part of the deal.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to be born with that mindset to want to push yourself. And so, I've always said to people, do something. Just start out going to the gym, learn how to play guitar, learn a computer program. But there's something in when we challenge ourselves. There's definitely something in having our buttons pushed, because there's something in us that if it doesn't break us, it's like we expand, or we grow. And I think that's what we get addicted to.
Absolutely. It's but like you said, I think that it doesn't have anything to do with, it's not like like exclusive to like a physical challenge.
No.
It's something that if you have a dream to write a book, then sitting down and starting to write a book might be really uncomfortable at first. You might think of every excuse that you want to make. You're going to go and clean your house like 19 times before you sit down to go and write the book. You're going to go and, you'll file your taxes before you go and write the book. You'll do anything that you possibly can to avoid that, because it kind of takes you outside of your comfort zone. And then when you sit down to do it, then, maybe you go for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, but then you get to that point where it's like, if you want it bad enough, you'll continually kind of pushing the envelope. You might find yourself immersed in it where 6-7 hours go by and you think, wow, where'd that time go?
Yeah.
And it's just, I think a big part of it is really being okay with being uncomfortable and having a desire for that, as opposed to thinking that being uncomfortable is such a terrible thing.
Yeah. And making a start. So have you got any tricks that you use to kind of to get yourself out of the blocks?
Yeah, I play a lot of mind games with stuff. I'll tell you a really random one that's kind of been really successful for me.
Yeah.
Is I think about sometimes in my head, like I have a big problem with like like just trying to like hurry up and do things like as quickly as possible. And instead of really trying to just go through and enjoy the whole process kind of methodically. And so I've tried to do is just to actually do things in some instances as slowly as I possibly can.
Wow.
Sounds kind of bizarre, but it's like, really go through and just like each single thing, just kind of like think through and just really slowly kind of map out what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And the amazing effect is that sometimes, like, if it's maybe I'm going to go and take that process, I'm going to go very slowly and organize my desk. Like a bizarre thing happens, and it's like it brings you just totally present-minded focus. And it's like, it really, at the end of it, like I challenge you to try it. You got to try it for yourself. But it's, you might cut like, 30%, 40% off the total time that it takes you to clean your desk. Is you're really not distracted with all the other stuff of like, when you get started cleaning your desk and then you're like, oh, these other, 119 things that I've got to go and do.
Yeah.
You're just focused on that one thing and you can knock it out. It's that power of just that focus.
So it's kind of like a mindfulness exercise, hey? It's kind of, but to do that, you make yourself slow down. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a fair amount of time. Like one of my biggest passions, probably why I have no social life to speak of, is
Yeah.
with dating at the moment. Like I don't know, just spending time like studying perceptions, studying, how we create like our own reality internally, through our, internal sights, sounds, feelings, the senses, and then how that can kind of reflect too on the outset of like, phobias or just dealing with other like traumatic events or self-doubt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can kind of find some cool stuff to go and say like, how can I really bring full mindfulness into what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And
See, that's the wild thing. I mean, I'm listening to you say that now, and I'm thinking I could almost guarantee that that a lot of the people that will see us and think that our whole world is consumed with just physical. It's like, holy, how is that guy? Is that guy going to drive a car? I mean, or is he going to?
right.
How's he going to eat and all this stuff? Whereas, like as we got to earlier, I mean, that's done. That's all dealt with, and in that we can push the envelope to take things even further.
That's the truth.
In
It's
taking
already, it is like you said, it's already done.
in taking the extra time to clean out off our desks. That just it really reminded me of something I got to I was working on this recently, but this whole idea of when we slow down is when when we can really create. Like for me, I don't think I've ever figured out anything major sitting in front of my computer. It usually happens when I'm out on my hand cycle or skiing, or when I take that time out. And it's not that I've slowed down physically, but it's that I've pushed everything else away or cleared a space. That's
Oh
when
yeah, for sure. When you have your computer open, right now, like got like 8 tabs open. I've got so many different things that are pulling my focus and, attention, whatever else. We're talking now, but it's like, if I weren't, then I'd be checking email, or I'd have a Facebook window open, or I'd have, Evernote up, and, who knows what else, right? It's like, and then like, oh, I got to go and check my blogs and the RSS feed and like, go and look at all these things. And it's like, it's just like your focus is just like, going 90 miles an hour. It's like, no wonder it's really hard to operate that way.
So is that part of the big attraction for you? Is that if you're training for Kili, say, or if you're going to hop into a ring with a guy that's gonna that's out to take you out,
Right.
stove your head in, as we like to say back in Oz. I mean, there's no room for distractions there. You're gonna be super focused, I would think. Is that kind of part of the attraction? Is it puts you into that almost like a meditative state, or a actually what I call it being connected. I got this whole thing about the reason I wanted to get back into the mountains is because that's when I felt this full on spiritual connection.
It's awesome.
And that I think we all chase it and find it in different ways.
Yeah, it's in nature. I think that you can't find, when you can't find cell phone coverage, you can't find all the other distractions and stuff like that. Then it really does. It makes it easy to just kind of relax and almost like let the brain just do like a total mental dump and restart and kind of clear up. And when we go through the day to day. I'm guilty of this all the time, and I know that I am. But it's just with the, like, if I go for a long period of time without questioning things and wondering, what do I really value? What's my purpose? What's important to me in my life? What's who do I care most about? Who do I care most about spending my time with? And just so many different things where it's like the stuff that really matters, as opposed to this is where I have to be at 9:30 tomorrow morning, and this is where I have to be at 11 o'clock tomorrow after that, and I have lunch with so and so, and then we kind of pack our days up like that, where it's just one thing to the next, and a lot of it's just a distraction. And
even when it's super important, it's still I think you're right. I think it's really important that we can pull ourselves away and create that space. It's something, sounds like it's a project for you as well, but it's definitely a work in progress for me to get better at that, to just protect, and you really do. You have to protect that space and just say, do you
That's
know
right.
what? I actually know I'm busy at that time. That's my time. Getting better at that. That's definitely a work in progress for me.
Well, it's tough, too, because I'm like I said, I'm guilty of this as well. Like, we get enticed with the immediate, like gratification of like, oh, okay, like, maybe it's a business opportunity that comes up that you really want to go down that path and go and pursue, and that, it's the struggle is, do you deal with, taking away that time from yourself to go and pursue that? You have to really know where your values are and kind of know where it's at, because is like, is that thing really going to matter in a year, in 3 years, in 30 years, like, or is it something that is just going to kind of pass?
Yeah. Good point. Good point. I'll have a good think about that one. I need to look at that. Look at that a bit more for sure. So I hate to ask you this, but what's up after Killy, or is it's you kind of got the blinkers on and it's like that's the mission?
I'd say it's going to be some like binge, like sleeping and eating for a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of chill time for a little bit. I think I kind of have I would say down the road, like definitely my eyes set, and kind of a vision on doing some higher peaks, kind of continuing to go down that path. I've really fallen in love with just mountaineering in general, and
Yeah.
like to continue to go and test those bounds, follow your footsteps, doing some ice climbing someday and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's I think just different experiences. Really want to do sometime soon Ironman triathlon kind of on the horizon. So
Cool.
that, and my biggest passion is we may be in competition with this one, but my passion is like the motivational speaking, and I want to become the best speaker in the world. It's something I want to just want to be the best I can possibly be at that. And I've seen experience the effect that it can have on people, and that I think that I get more out of it than I could ever give, and it's something I want to continue to go down that path of really trying to hone that.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you. Me too. Although it's interesting because I got this thing going the other way as well. It's like, I don't want to be on the road so much. I want to just have kind of more time to chill out and ski and all the rest of it. But
Yeah, I also too, experience. I guess now, for the first couple of years, I wasn't this way, but I now try to focus on everywhere that I go, really making it an experience.
yeah,
I really struggled a lot with the speaking when I started. I started when I was, really started when I was like hard 19 years old.
yeah,
Went from doing like, I was a college student to full time business traveler. Like the whole, like highest, medallion status on Delta. Like, it was
yeah.
just total change in my life,
And that happened like that when No Excuses came out, didn't it? It was like, I mean, 1 minute you had this life, and then it was like flip the switch.
it was an instant thing. Yeah, it was really like, just an amazing experience. I mean, I can't, like complain. It was like exciting things were happening, but I just really woke up like 3 months into a speaking tour, kind of book tour, post book release, and I had visited something like 60 cities in 90 days, and I looked back, and all that I'd really experienced from those cities was like sitting in a hotel room.
Exactly.
Sitting in a car and in the airport, and that was it. And it was like I was only eating airport food, and I gained like 30 pounds. And for me, like
Probably not a muscle either, hey?
no, yeah, that was like pretty much all belly weight. There's not much room to distribute that. So
Yeah.
it was,
But
I really
that's
struggled
an
with it.
interesting perception thing as well, though, is because a lot of people would see that and see there's this guy flying around, he's just killing it, he's like the rock star on stage wherever he goes, and they don't see just those times when you basically just all you want to do is get back to the hotel room and order room service and just kind of get something back. So
You're right.
again, it's a huge perception.
Yeah, and it's the tough part is the hardest part for me was that I'm here delivering this no excuses message,
Yeah.
and I'm making all these BS excuses in my own life, and I'm like, just it really was like I felt like I was just a fraud.
Yeah.
Like other people were just going to look at me like I'm just like every word that's coming out of my mouth is a lie. And so I'm sitting here ruminating on that in my head while I'm giving a speech, and it just felt very inauthentic.
Yeah.
And I was driven to a point where I was nearly ready to quit. And around that time, I met two soldiers from Iraq that had been burned.
That's right.
Yeah. They had told me that my story had stopped them from committing suicide.
Yeah.
And it was like just changed everything for me instantly, and really opened my eyes up to kind of my purpose and having something that was more important than me and all the other, like just to kind of eat my own dog food for a second and like say that quit making these excuses yourself and get back on the horse.
Yeah, you're right, because because there was a bigger picture than just you involved, and that to me that's when you got to start looking for, okay, this is the deal, this is what I do, and you got to look for ways to make it work.
Yeah, and enjoy it. Yeah,
be it work out on the road, take time out, and all the rest of it.
It makes all the difference in the world. If I can go and focus on eating right, kind of developed a huge passion for biochemistry and studying autoimmunity. So just do a lot of work towards diet and subscribe my personal belief to the paleo diet, sort of a evolutionary perspective on health. It's changed my life. So I try to eat as clean as I can, 90% of the time, and I try to train consistently, and there's never a place where I can't, even with my own body, hit a CrossFit workout in a hotel gym, and and then continue to go and set goals and not allow, just the career goals to go and consume everything else, and to be able to have time to do things like Kili and these other goals.
Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes I think we don't realize that being so focused on one goal is detrimental to other parts of our lives.
Yeah, you really can. If you go down the path like too far, like in one thing, it can really kind of suck the life force out of everything else. Where it's like, I'm a firm believer in kind of people diversify their investment portfolio, so you kind of need to diversify your goal portfolio too. You need to if you have several goals going on at once, if you have like one or two career goals that you're really pushing towards, you have one or two fitness goals, you have another one or two like social fun general goals or family goals, then you really you might have a setback in one. You might have a really crappy week at doing your work, but you went and set a personal record on on this bike trail, and then you had a great weekend with your family, and it's like, wow, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, because all your eggs weren't in one basket.
Right. Well. Yeah, you weren't totally oversold in that one thing. If if the stock drops in that one item, then you're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, well, I should let us wrap up here, because I know it's it's pretty late for you, but let's stay in touch, because I definitely I'm super psyched for you on Kili for a start, and I can't wait to see the footage and just to kind of hear the stories that come back, because that's part of it. That's part of being on a trip like that, I think, is some of the stories and the people that you get to share, to spend that time.
Before I let you we part ways this time. What would you say if you had any? I mean, with you having done what you've done, knowing what you know now, and going into this, and me kind of being on the green side, what would you say is the most important thing I need to keep in mind before and during this whole experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. The main one, and you'll hear this a lot on Kili. You've probably heard it already, but you definitely got to take it slow. And the thing for me, I laughed when I heard that, because I thought, hey, I'm kind of in slow motion anyway. You know, I can't go at the same speed as everybody else. But when I got on the mountain, I understood it more to me, not just in terms of pace relative to everybody else, but to my own pace as well. Because it's a long way up, you know, and there you'll get to a point, or I did at 16,000 feet, where you hit that wall, or I hit the wall, and I think it was really only because I'd taken things easy enough leading up to that, and then I had the time to just chill out for 36 hours. It's like, you know what, we're not going anywhere. I got to kind of move through this. And when I say move through it, a lot of it was psychological. It was like, you might not be good enough to do this. There was the big thing, because I just got whacked. When altitude hits you, it feels pretty horrible. I mean, you feel out of shape. You feel hungover. It's a horrible feeling. And so I just allowed myself to just chill and just try and get through that. And then the amazing thing was, once I was through that next morning when we started moving again, I was no more than a couple of 100 feet away from our camp, and I knew we were going to the top.
Wow.
Because it was like I'd blown through the wall, and then I got back to just enjoying it again. And the days after that, yeah, there were some hard days, but it was different. I think something changed blowing through that crux. But if I know for sure that if I had pushed it, it wouldn't have turned out the same way. I think I would have had to come back down. So that's what I mean about taking time.
Yeah, I have heard the Swahili word that they use for
Poli.
Poli, yeah, that's right. You know, it's I think that absolutely something. You know, it's kind of ironic. We were just talking about that too, and really, you know, when you are going slow, then it does bring you fully into that experience, and it's probably going to be the most effective way to approach this too, to not only just to succeed, but just to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because as we said earlier, I mean, it's an amazing mountain in an amazing country full of amazing people. So just the experience of being there, again, you could get so focused on the goal that you
lose everything else.
You could miss out on everything else, and you don't want to do that, because it's just you want to kind of soak it all up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I will absolutely. I mean, I think that's going to help me on some of those tougher moments.
Yeah, and they'll be there for sure. But I'm jealous. All the best with it.
Thank you. We'll have to do something together someday. That'll be another goal to put on the map.
I was going to say I was going to hook up with you once we've done the interview here, but I got some ideas when you're talking ice climbing. That's what my partner Margot. That's where she is right now. Actually, she's down in Montana teaching clinics, and
that's awesome.
A buddy of mine runs an event. Malcolm Daly runs an event in Ouray, Colorado called Gimps on Ice. That's just amputees come from everywhere, and it's like the armless, the legless. and you just figure stuff out from people that have already figured out. It's a pretty amazing event. So yeah, we'll have to hook up with you there at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard about it. So I think that's got to be on the horizon for sure.
Cool. Well, hopefully this will go out. Well, actually, will it go out before you go to Kili? I'm not too sure, but people can follow progress on missionkilimanjaro.com, or is it?
That's right, missionkilimanjaro.com. Yeah, cool. We'd be honored for people just to come along and hopefully be able to do barring technical difficulties, we're going to shoot to do like a daily blog, update, and hopefully some like audio, like podcasts and stuff like that too, from the mountain, to kind of give people kind of an idea where we're at and what we're up to.
Cool. And then they can check out kyle-maynard.com as well for speaking info, CrossFit info, all the rest of it.
Yeah, that's right. All the assorted stuff, and kind of working on redesigning the site now too. So hopefully at some point see some just random blog ramblings there in a little bit. So that'd be awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, good to connect with you, and yeah, we'll be watching and checking out what you get up to next.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alrighty. Cool.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Kyle.